A judge is temporarily blocking the Cabarrus County Board of Commissioners' newly appointed member from taking office. A citizens group sued the county, claiming they improperly appointed a replacement for former chair Chris Meismer. He left county government to fill an open seat in the North Carolina State Senate. The citizens group claims that commissioners named Meismer's successor before he resigned and without enough notice to the public. The judge's ruling means that Meismer's replacement, Lamary Austin Stripling, cannot take office until this matter is resolved. Chief Legal Analyst Khalif Rhodes, here we are. So you've been reporting, we've been reporting on this for quite a while. You said, quote my words, remember this, it's coming. We knew this injunction was going to be happening. Before we get to the specifics of what a preliminary injunction is, let's go back. What is the harm in any committee or government office of going, I know I'm resigning Friday, can I not go ahead and plan on who my replacement is going to be?
I think that's a great question. I mean, if there were no rules around it, that would seem like it's something that you could do. I mean, you're saying, you know, we're going to do a preemptive or a pre-vacancy filling. I haven't stepped down yet, but I know that I'm going to step down. And because I know that I'm going to step down, I want to be able to put myself in a situation to have this seat filled. But the problem is there's a statute that dictates how vacancies are filled, what's triggered in the event that a person becomes, a vacancy becomes available. Typically, in that situation, if the person, in this instance, the chair, is going to remove himself from the position because he's going to take another seat, so now the vacancy would occur. Then the clerk of superior court, as the statute requires, would address calling a meeting because now the chair is no longer there. That portion would allow them to at least have quorum to be able to make sure there can be a vote that can take place. And so the rules with all of this is to ensure that there is some type of process that doesn't allow the person that's leaving to participate in the process. Kind of exactly what happened here in this Cabarrus situation. You know what? I know I'm stepping away, but I want to vote and have a say on who takes my seat. And actually, not only that, I'm going to call the meeting because I'm the chair to ensure that this vote happens before I get sworn in. And those are going to be the problems with the process. If there was no statute, I don't think anything would be wrong with it. I don't think Robert's Rules of Order addressed anything like this specifically on how you run a meeting. As long as you have quorum, I think you would be fine. The issue is there's a statute that addresses how vacancies are filled on the city level and on the county level. And so you just went against what the statute says.
Okay, so Superior Court Judge Warren has created or said there's a preliminary injunction in place. So Lamary Austin Stripling can't be sworn into office. So the judge says, hang on, we didn't go by the rules, so we're going to undo this. So what's the process that happens?
Jason,
will they start over? Can she still take the seat?
No, she can't. Well, she can start take the seat after there's an official real vote.
Okay,
but she can't take the seat based on that. What the judge basically said is we can pretend that day didn't happen. I mean, we're going to take it back to the day before. So that in terms of folks that are sitting on the board of county commissioners in Cabarrus County, we're going to assume that it's a vacancy now, and now we need to go through the process. But we're not going to allow that vote to have taken place because it wasn't an actual vote. We've talked about injunctions a number of times, and I know you'll be sick in the head of hearing it. Injunction. But we got to be clear. The standard is here. Likelihood of success in the marriage. Well, we've already talked about will they be successful? Yes, because the statute clearly dictates how this meeting was supposed to run, and it didn't go. So if they filed the lawsuit, they'd be successful. Irreparable harm. Well, if you give this person a seat, and the person that should actually have the seat, maybe someone different because the process folds out a different way. Maybe 3 other people vote a separate way. Maybe because that other person that's there, his vote's removed. Now it's 2-2. Those other 2 people that weren't at the meeting, they vote another way. Maybe a whole other person gets the seat. Well, money can't solve that. You can't pay them money for not getting the seat. So now irreparable harm has happened. And then the balancing of the equities, the public policy and public interest would be in favor of having boards follow what the statute says. You wouldn't want to have a public policy that says, all right, you guys can follow the statute when you want to. So when the judge goes through those 4-prong analysis, it's pretty clear that all 4 of them are saying, yeah, I got to give them this injunction because all 4 are pointing in their direction.
Well, this is certainly a reminder to other counties. Before you, there's a reason you have statutes in place, and clearly the judge is saying here we're going to follow.
But I will say this: the red flags are there with a certain number of these situations. Remember, when looking at this county commission, they fired the attorney.
Yeah,
they did fire and remove their manager at some point. Right, there were a number of moving parts. The attorney would have advised them. Their new attorney should have advised them that, hey, slow down a minute. They're there to tell you, are we doing this by the book? When any board I sit on, I'm going to say, are we allowed to do this? I know this is what we want to do, but are we able to do this? And then council will come back with a recommendation and say, well, guys, you can't do it that way. You got to do it this way. Council should have stepped up and said, hey, guys, you know, if you want to vote, he can't be in the vote because he's actually not going to be here. And technically, he's not a vacancy yet because he hasn't been sworn into his other seat. These things have to be triggered. Because none of those things were triggered and because council didn't advise, I always talk about when I see attorneys doing an excellent job. In this situation, I would have hoped that council would have said, you guys can't do this. And I'm not saying that council didn't. Maybe he did. Oftentimes, I tell my clients to do something, and they say, well, thanks for that advice. I'm going to do what I want to do anyway.
Thank goodness you've never had a client not listen to your advice, right?
That
Khalif?
happens all the time.
We don't even have time to go down that road right now. Khalif, thanks, man. I appreciate that.